which is how do I, as an entrepreneur, actually access money? And as I spoke this morning, one of the things that has struck me in the past year or two is starting to see a lot more. In the past, we focused a lot of attention on U.S. investors investing into China and taking advantage of the tremendous opportunities there. But what we've seen in the last few years is, to a certain extent, a reversal of that flow, where for the first time in my experience, Chinese capital looking to diversify overseas, looking to make strategic investments. And I have personally several clients that have benefited from this trend. Just two examples. One, I have a shale oil and gas company based here in the U.S. whose largest outside shareholder is a private energy company in China. And I have another client who's a mobile VoIP company out of Switzerland, big focus on Asia, and some of their largest shareholders, again, are out of China. So this is something I've kind of witnessed firsthand, and we wanted to talk about what is that flow looking like, and what's the opportunities that may start to emerge as this market becomes better defined and more mature, and opportunities that the U.S. companies, particularly if they have a China aspect to their business plan, may see in raising capital from Chinese sources. And so I'm very pleased that we have a panel here that represents a number of different phases and perspectives in that process. And I want to thank, again, Victor Wang, who helped us put together this panel and bring these speakers on kind of a short order. So thank you again for your help. But we have with us Vincent Ma, who's here with two caps. One, he's the co-founder of the China Startups and Incubators Alliance, that we're talking about, and he's also the vice chairman of the China Grassroots Angel Investors Group, and he has some other endeavors he may mention as well, but those are the two ones we're going to focus on today. We also have with us Vish Mishra, and Vish is the venture director of Clearstone Venture Partners, and a lot of international investing experience and a little bit more recent exposure to China. And then Tiemin Zhao, who's the venture partner at IPB Capital, and a very strong focus on cross-border and investment, U.S.-China, so we're going to hear about that. So maybe kind of start a little bit with each of you. Tiemin, IPB Capital, you told me yesterday, actually started life as a government-backed VC, a Chinese VC firm, but has grown to be much more international. Can you just give us a briefly kind of overview of how that's developed?
Yeah, IPB started back in 1999. It was called Infotech Ventures, and it was backed by 10 largest IT companies in China and the Ministry of Information Technology. It actually started out as a grant, so it was free money for startups, no equities, but gradually learned the Silicon Valley model and started having equities for startups. By 2006, we had invested 24 startups in the IT industry, and total investment is about $50 million US. And right around 2006, 2007, we had a couple of IPOs, some on NASDAQ, some in China. And so there was interest from foreign investors to have us manage their money. So therefore, we raised a US dollar fund and officially closed in 2009. I think we started investing back in 2007, 2008 timeframe, starting from this US dollar fund. By now, we have two funds, two US dollar funds, and together it's about $240 million. We invest primarily in China. However, we do invest cross-border, as Crocker just mentioned. We have several companies in the US and a couple in Singapore as well.
And we'll get into those deals in a few minutes. Vish, I think Clearstone, some of your investments that people know are kind of US companies that actually touch consumers. But tell us a little about your history with cross-border investing, and specifically with China, which I understand is a little bit new to you.
Yeah, well, thanks a lot just for having me over here. As I mentioned, we looked at China and India about 8 years ago very critically. And we came to the conclusion that maybe perhaps we should first go to India and maybe then go to China. And so we actually, it was very interesting, the previous presentation that we talked about the cultural difference between the US and China. The slide after was very revealing. I think it's pretty much parallels India also. So if you can take, you can cross China and put India, I think everything just about So we gained quite a bit of experience, but the interesting thing that is happening is on the cross-border side, just on the India side, that there's a lot of new energy, has come into the marketplace, just like China. A lot of young entrepreneurs, they really want to change the world. They really want to, make a difference. So the energy that we see, a lot of my colleagues that I have invested in China and VC, so they tell me, it's the same thing. The energy is very high. So whether you go to Bangalore or Beijing, it's really. In fact, sometimes I've lived in the Valley for 36 years, and I'm saying, gosh, what happened to the energy here? It's like those people are so just energetic, enthusiastic about launching new ventures. The interesting thing that is happening is that the innovation now, of course, we talk about China, traditionally manufacturing, or India also same thing. They're more like a services outsourcing. But I think the innovation actually is occurring. Okay, the younger set, they're well read, they're going to good schools, they're globally connected, and I think so. The innovation also is kind of happening. I'll just cite one example of one company that we invested in India. We thought it was a purely Indian company. It's a gaming company called Games2Win. Games2Win.com. About 5 years ago, the creative director was MTV, India's creative director, and all these guys are really bright entrepreneurs. So they launched games just for the Indian teenager market. So 13-year-old kids basically can go play all the internet games in the cafes, internet cafes. And the games are like, some of the titles are pretty cheesy, just like the all the foreign movies, that if you see Hollywood movie and look at the foreign movies, like, gee, what the heck is this, like that. So a lot of the Bollywood type movies, kind of games they started creating. Well, what happened in 5 years? They have 700 titles, 50 of them are hits. Out of 50, so initially 100% of audience was Indian, 100%. But somehow through the internet and through the viral, nature of the, this business, now the half the traffic is Western Europe and US. Full 50% and growing faster. 50%. The Asian countries, China, Korea, Japan, Vietnam, Taiwan, all these, the traffic over there is like 30% they get information, from those countries. Then, and India is now 20%. So this company started as an Indian company, but it became a global company, like that. So the other thing that we did, so time to test the China market, so we funded a company over here called Supply Frame. And it's more like a commerce company, online commerce company, dealing in electronic components. And we found out that the average age of an electronic design engineer in the US is about 57, 58 years old now, because nobody wants to do component engineering work. But in China, it just averages like 27 years. So all of a sudden, okay, we started seeing traffic to all this company, online company from China. And then we discovered that there are a whole bunch of Chinese entrepreneurs that started companies. So we partnered with 2 companies. So our entry into China became through that company called Supply Frame. And this is now the world's largest company where the electronic design engineers, there are 2 million people, it's like they go on the web and they create their own files, the database for the components, and then they have started doing social networking because one engineer talked to the other. There are also a lot of women. In China, there's a lot of single young men. So a lot of these women also come to the website because they find all these single young men. So this is very interesting, and we're learning a lot about China. So those are some of the anecdotes I want to just share with you about our investment.
So the intersection of China, India, supply chain, and data. Is that
And data.
and data? Amazing. It's amazing
It's just amazing.
that you wrapped that into one business concept. That's a great story. Actually, I think you're going to tell us about really the moment of creation in entrepreneurship, which is angel investing, and tell us a little bit about your kind of path to U.S.-China deals in that area.
Thank you, Tiemin. Thank you, Vish. And thank you, Crocker, for giving me this opportunity to share my angel investing experience in China and the US with friends here today. My name is Vincent Ma, and I'm an angel investor. Actually, I'm an entrepreneur first. Here I'm an angel investor today, but I look myself as a lifetime long entrepreneur still today. I have 16 years working experience, worked for large companies, Fortune 500 companies. I set up my first company in China in 1997, and I moved to US, Chicago for my MBA in 1998. And I graduated, I worked for Office Max for 1 year, and Deloitte for half a year. Then I started my first company in 2002, set up my first American company. So today I'm an angel investor. People ask me why I'm doing angel investing in China or in the US. I think this is something which is back to when I was an entrepreneur. I was looking for some people who can help me. At that time I didn't have anybody except my professor from my university helped me and as kind of advisor, but I didn't ask for the money from any angels. So I did set up a company and we made money, and then I started learning how to invest because I had a lot of ideas. I can have maybe 3 to 5 business ideas a day. I mean, probably most of entrepreneurs here, you have many ideas every day jump out of your mind. You just no control. So for those people, I think after you start a business, after maybe 5 to 10 years, maybe 10 years later, you think it's time for you to think who you are. If you really find a good business which you can spend another 20 years, maybe like a Google or like a Tencent, and then it's worthwhile for you to spend all your life in that business. Otherwise, you'll think about maybe it's time for you to become the investor. Definitely it's good to be an angel investor because you've been there. You've been, you were an entrepreneur before. Now you are an angel investor, which is you can invest in a startup and help you still get involved in that startup, the feeling, the passion. So that's the reason why I became an angel investor back 2 years ago when I traveled back to China and came back to the US. In China, I met some angel investors, there's, we call Xu Xiaoping or Xue Manzi. There's my other, I think they're doing very well in China, so I talked with them, they encouraged me to become one of their young angel investors. So I've been doing this for like 2 years. In China, I helped set up an alliance called China Startups and Coffee.
And then we're going to get to that in just 1 second. Yeah, because that's a fascinating model. So, Tiemin, we're talking about flow of capital from China to U.S. and particularly the appeal of these hybrid business models where you have companies based here in the U.S. That have China as a very significant part of their business focus. And it sounds like you've made 4 or 5 investments that fit that profile. Tell us that, as a venture firm, why do you think it's worth committing capital here? What are the qualities you're looking for? Do you think a company's going to succeed with this model?
Yeah, we were looking for either breakthrough technology or breakthrough business model that could apply well in China, and also looking for companies where we can add value. Our value is based on our years of connections, because we started out as a government fund. Actually, that fund still exists, and the government provides the local RMB fund worth of billions of US dollars per year, and so that's still going on, and we have a lot of good relationship with the industry, with the the government, where we can help these startups here if they want to go to China. And the companies that we invested here, as I said, most of them have technology, very high-tech, breakthrough. One of the examples is a company called Amprius. It's a battery company started by a Stanford professor. He basically applied breakthrough nanomaterial technology to the conventional battery process. And the result is that a battery with much higher density than what's existing in the market. And so we invested in the B round and participated by KPCB and also the first round investors at Vantage Point, Trident Capital, and also Stanford University and Google chairman Eric Schmidt. So we basically introduced the company to China. And so it started as an R&D facility here, and now we have a pilot line in China. And we started selling small quantities of high energy batteries, and also we actually have samples to like a Google Glass, which is very cool. And another company that's a business model innovation is started in Houston. And this founder came from the oil service industry. And what he found is that there are lots of data. They didn't call it big data at the time, but it is lots of data in the oil service field. And however, in the US, there are not enough PhD in petroleum engineering, and the numbers are getting less every year. And so he traveled around the world and found that actually there were lots of qualified PhD in petroleum engineering in China. So he started this company. The model is actually fairly simple. You just have these talented Chinese engineers processing the data from the oil service companies here. So the company has been doing great, and very little competition. So that's a couple of things.
Great, that's very helpful. Vish, as we were talking yesterday, you mentioned that one thing that we're starting to see is some of these now very sizable established TMT players in China, and household names in China anyway, Baidu, Tencent, Alibaba, that are now starting to set up shop here in Silicon Valley. They've realized they want to acquire technology, and making investments is one way to do it. And tell us what you're seeing and kind of where they focus. Is that an opportunity that some of these entrepreneurs may be thinking about?
Oh, definitely. Just 2 days ago, I had the good fortune to spend some time with this fellow at Baidu. Baidu had 30 people in Cupertino, and they just started their operation recently. And this fellow, he's of Chinese origin, young, bright entrepreneur actually. So he took a job with IBM in China. So he cut his teeth in China, came here, went to MIT, got his education, and worked in Silicon Valley for about 4 startups. And then Baidu hired him. So he's just picture the model, okay? A Chinese native, American educated, has a startup company experience in the US, okay? And most of these companies that he worked for, he gained tremendous amount of knowledge, but most of the companies did not make it. But he learned so much in the process. So Baidu picked him. And now he's aggressively recruiting talent. He's got 30 people. He wants to hire, a lot more. And he wants to partner with other companies who have that, as Tiemin mentioned, companies that got the breakthrough technologies. So they want to access, they say, we want to access innovation, Silicon Valley innovation. We also want to access Silicon Valley talent. And try to take some of this back and see, because they got a huge business, but how can they really bring innovation? So that's the key. Same thing, I met with the folks from Alibaba, China Mobile, all the people. Huawei got a huge operation over here. So all these companies are coming over here, because they know that Silicon Valley has, just a lot of free-spirited, a lot of talented people, and innovation is a big thing over here. So because they want to take that back and see if they can infuse, the spirit of innovation among at least most of the younger set and the corporate. Okay, corporate also wants to innovate to continue to grow. If they want to grow outside, like Baidu is only in China, but they want to grow outside of China. So how do they grow? I mean, like that. So I'm seeing a lot of that. Okay.
Great. I think that's a trend probably everyone will be wanting to track closely, given the huge scale that they have in terms of numbers of users in China. And they're also, I mean, if you look at a company like Tencent, just amazing level of constant opportunistic innovation. They will introduce businesses, and if it gets traction, drive it to success so quickly. It's just unbelievable.
So that's the other thing that they really are looking at also scale, because they can bring technology and talent. They can they can really help scale that thing up in a big way, because they know how to scale things. Okay.
Right.
Thank you.
So Vincent, I also was really intrigued with our conversation yesterday as we were preparing for this call. Maybe talk a little bit about this China Startup Incubator Alliance, which, as you described it, is almost building the Starbucks of startups. I mean, it sounds like this is really becoming an important nexus for entrepreneurs and angel investors to get together. How's that working?
Yeah, I like the word you call startups of startups of startups. And actually in China right now, for angel investors, if you, let's say, you want to go to China to find some good deals, you can find tons of good deals here in Silicon Valley. But you go to China, you want to find some good team, where you're going. I mean, back about 2-3 years ago, you go to Beijing, you go to a coffee shop, you can name a couple. I can name a couple, then probably some of you guys have been there. Like 3W Coffee, have you guys been there? Anybody from Beijing? Or Garage Cafe, right? So this is the first one probably, back a couple of years ago, we met, if I go back to China, I met with my friends, sit down at the Starbucks Coffee to talk about business. I mean, still today, if I cannot find any startup coffee, then I'll go to startup, or whatever, sorry, because it's startup and startup. So in the past, I think probably 1.5 years in China, there's more than 30 to 40 kind of coffee shops came out, but this thing is focusing on startups, where the investors, especially angel investors, goes to meet with the startups team and talk about business in Beijing, Shanghai, Guangzhou, Shenzhen, and all over. I'm one of the shareholders for a coffee shop called Beta Coffee. We have 4 coffee shops in Hangzhou and Shenzhen, Guangzhou, and Beijing. So where this place, most people get together come from either angel investors or entrepreneurs, or whoever wants to know what's going on being an entrepreneur. So in the past, I said it's 14 months, and actually still today there's that's in Wuhan. Anybody from Wuhan, that city? In Wuhan, Lei Jun, Mr. Lei just set up 2 coffee shops in Wuhan. Just try to tap into the talents in that city. And Wuhan is one of the probably largest college student city in the world. They have 1.2 million college students on campus, and every year there are 200,000 college graduates in that city. So for angel investors like me, I've been there probably 3-4 times this year. So trying to go there to get to know the teams in Wuhan. The place I go is go to the coffee shop. There's a coffee shop called Down Coffee in Wuhan. That's where I find some startups over there, which is I'm advising. And let's say if I know them very well, I will invest in them. That's pretty much how it works right now in China. If I go to different cities, second tier city and third tier city, I'm going to the coffee shop. Not Starbucks, but I'm going to the startup coffee shop. So that alliance, we have about close to 30 coffee shops across China. And this coffee shop is also have some small office you can use to incubate your business. Think about this mini, Y Combinator or mini plug and play, and combined with a coffee shop, which is a coffee place, such as you can drink coffee or tea. At the same time, you get no charter.
Fascinating. Tiemin, you mentioned, is it Amprius, is that the name of the
Yes.
clean tech? And so I think that, mentioned yesterday, one of the challenges in the clean tech sector is you invest, capital and you invest, energy to develop the IP, but then to take it to commercialization is a whole nother level of investment. And tell us about the structure that you came up with the support of the Chinese government for that company.
Yeah, so as probably everyone knows, with some high-profile clean tech startup failures like Solyndra or A123, the venture capitalists here in the U.S. are very hesitant to invest more money in a clean tech startup, especially we're talking about large scale. For example, this battery company I talked about, we needed $50 million to build a factory for large-scale commercialization of the battery technologies. And it is really difficult to find money here. And even in China, people, VCs tend to invest in earlier stage. But there are other capital sources available, such as government money or industry money or private money. So what we did with Amprius is that we only raise VC monies for R&D, but for high volume manufacturing, we try to form joint ventures separately. But the joint venture is owned by the parent company. So right now, the company has 2 term sheets, one from a municipal government's investment arm, and another one from a big company of other businesses, wanting to diversify and get into the battery business. So I think that both offer pretty favorable terms. The only thing is that you need to go build a factory in their territory. So, and we're negotiating the details, already signed an MOU, so I think that deal is going to go through. So I think that model is pretty much works for all the clean tech companies that needs large investment to build factories.
Thanks so much.